So Lost Origins has been out for less than a week, and for such an anticipated set, there really hasn't been a lack of drama. First things first, there's been some issues with what seems like alt art distribution. So there's some people saying that they've not had the opportunity to pull any alt arts even though they've opened a mass amount of products, and on the other side of the coin there's people saying, oh, they've opened a lot of product, or they've opened some product and they found it quite easy to pack the alt art. So there's a little bit of confusion going on there as to where has the distribution gone wrong, for example, and why that is the case. Still a lot of kind of rumors hanging in the air, but for me, someone who's interested in the set and investing in the set, investing in the cards in the set, I thought it'd be better just to kind of get into the statistics, into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and take a look at some of those statistics. When on every new set release, TCG Player open a specific number of booster packs, and they release statistics for those packs. So you can see here the pull rates for Lost Origins. So they've shown the pull rates explicitly here for a few cards. Obviously the most important cards of the set, I'd say probably the ones that people are most interested are going to be in the Giratina and the Aerodactyl alt arts, as well as that Pikachu VMAX alt art. Of course that's a trainer gallery card, so it's a little bit different. Although as you can see there, they pulled the same amount of that as the Aerodactyl in the 8,000 booster packs that they opened. I'm not entirely sure, so if someone could clarify, that would be fantastic. But as far as I'm aware, TCG Player don't just open booster boxes to get these numbers. Booster boxes are mapped relative to other products, blisters, tins, and so on and so forth. Maybe special boxes and so on and so forth. So it'd be interesting to see if that is actually the case. As far as I'm aware, they open a variety of products, where that's why it doesn't maybe translate exactly into the mapping you'd expect from a booster box. But nonetheless, I think it'd be interesting to kind of take a look at these numbers, and I'm hoping to kind of compare them to the previous two sets in Astral Radiance and Brilliant Stars to kind of get a better idea of what we can expect with the cards coming in the future. Because they've been out for a week, and there's been the Giratina came out flying high, crazy price, and the Aerodactyl did the same thing, and you can see obviously their pull rates are quite similar. According to this data, and if we can kind of make comparisons between the data here as well as the data in the other two sets, the two most recent sets, maybe we can identify the trends from those sets and apply them here, and hope we can make some fairly good estimations or predictions as to what the cards are going to do and how they'll behave over the coming months. So as you can see here, you're expected to, and let's say we are opening booster boxes, which is obviously a bit strange considering what I just said, but for example, the Giratina Altar is roughly around about 1 in 20 booster boxes. The Aerodactyl, which again, another one of the more interesting cards in the set, that's roughly it's about 2-3 boxes fewer, so 1 in 16-17. Same with the Pikachu VMAX. So generally, when you're looking at individual cards, there's a lot of fluctuation in terms of the values. Even if if the one additional Giratina V was pulled, it would skew the probability of that card significantly. And 8,000 is a nice number. It's a large number of packs to open, so it's a statistically significant estimation when it comes to these values here. But ideally you want as many packs open as possible, so if you were to collect data, you'd get an even better idea of what's going on. But if we kind of take these numbers as face value, we can really work towards identifying some patterns maybe between this set and the previous sets that were released. So first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the number of gold rares, rainbow rares, for example, and alt arts, for example, in this set compared to Astral Radiance and Brilliant Stars. So as you can see here, gold rares are roughly 1 in 3 sets for 1 in 3 booster boxes for Lost Origins, whereas if you look at the data for Brilliant Stars and Astral Radiance, it's around about 1 in 4, and Brilliant Stars it's around about 1 in 2.5. You'll see that's a pattern across the gold rares, rainbow rares, and alt arts in terms of Astral Radiance just being a harder set to pull. And I think that sentiment was very much obvious when the set came out. I opened some of it myself, I opened some of it on my channel too, and it seemed like the cards were certainly more difficult to pull, especially compared to Brilliant Stars. Again, Lost Origins, I actually haven't managed to, I was away for a while, so I didn't actually manage to get a hold of my boxes yet, so I haven't seen it for myself personally, but I found Astral Radiance an absolute chore to open. And there's a, you know, there is that kind of sentiment, I think, that sets where the pull rates are very, you know, astronomical and cards are hard to pull, they're not fun sets to open. At the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I found it to be the issue with Chilling Reign. Again, could be wrong, but you know, off the top of my head, it was a tough set to get big pulls from. So I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, I don't want to open that. Maybe I want to open the set coming after. I think it might have also been Battle Styles. I think it was Battle Styles. And not to say that would have made a difference to how good of a set it was, because again, still a subpar set Battle Styles was. But at the same time, if they're more fun and easier to pull the better cards, I'm sure more people would be happy and would be willing to open it. If you look at the Rainbow Rare numbers, so this is for any Rainbow Rare, again, you've got 1 in 70 packs, so that's roughly 1.5 booster boxes. For Astral Radiance, again, it's lower, it's 1 in 2 booster boxes, you're getting a Rainbow Rare. And for Battle Styles, it's similar to Lost Origins, where again, it's around about 1 in 1.5 booster boxes. The big difference, I guess, between the three sets. So of course, as I mentioned, the pulls from Battle Styles in terms of the Rainbow Rare numbers are a little bit lower, and the gold Rare numbers are a little bit lower. But if you specifically move away from looking at single cards, because of course, as I mentioned, there's a lot of fluctuation when you look at single cards, and you look at the actual type of card, like Gold Secret Rare, Rainbow Rare, you already get a better understanding of what is going on. So if you look at the chance of pulling any specific gold card from Lost Origins, so the numbers aren't here, this is just something you can either see on TCG Player, or you can just calculate it yourself. If you take the value of I think it's oh god, I'm just gonna look like such an idiot now, but yeah, basically the chance of packing any of the gold rares and times it by the number of gold rares, if you do that for Lost Origins, the chance of you getting one specific gold rare that you want, for Lost Origins it's 1 in 682, for Astral Radiance it's 1 in 1178, and for Battle Styles it's 1 in 552. Meaning that, again, if you want that one specific gold rare, whether for example here it's the Arceus, or it's the Ultra Ball, or you know the Dialga or the Palkia, it's so much tougher when you're looking at Astral Radiance. It's basically twice as hard to get the specific card. Obviously, trying to, you know, it's crazy trying to open in packs to get specific cards, but just to give an idea that Astral Radiance really here is the set of the three that you're looking at the numbers and you're saying, whoa, like, it's crazy. Crazy difficult to pull that specific card that you want relative to the other cards. And that's mostly down to the fact that Astral Radiance has a greater number of gold cards. So there are a total of 9 secret rare gold cards in Astral Radiance, compared to Brilliant Stars and Lost Origins, which both have 6 gold secret rares. It's a similar story with the Rainbow Rares, except it's a little bit closer, just because there are more Rainbow Rares in Lost Origins. And that number is closer to the number of Rainbow Rares in Astral Radiance. So in Astral Radiance there are a total of 18 Rainbow Rares, in Lost Origins there are a total of 15, and Brilliant Stars again at the bottom with a total of only 8 Rainbow Rares. Meaning that if you're interested in pulling one of the Rainbow Rares, such as the Charizard for example, from Brilliant Stars, you've got a much higher chance. So it's roughly, if my numbers are correct, it's roughly around 1 in 408 to get a specific secret rare, compared to Astral Radiance, which is 1 in 1400, and which is obviously, you know, over 3 times higher. And then also the chance of you getting a specific Rainbow Rare in Lost Origins is roughly 1 in 1050. So, you know, if you're interested in, you know, if there's one specific Rainbow Rare card you really want to pull, Brilliant Stars is the set to go, because you never know, you might pull that Charizard VMAX. But all of these things, before I move on to quickly talk about alt arts, you know, all of these things, they're not just empty numbers. They obviously have some tangible impacts on the cards, on the value of the card. So that's why it's important when it comes to investments, and you know, what card you want to be picking up, what card you want to be grading and keeping, what card you want to be grading and selling, and so on and so forth. So just to quickly touch upon alt arts here. So roughly, after looking at the numbers, again, they're not shown here. It was on TCG Player's website. It's 1 in 5.5 boxes for Lost Origins. And if you want one specific alt art, it's roughly 1 in 804 packs. Or 800 packs, because that's more rough. For Astral Radiance, it's 1 in 4 boxes. So 1 in 810. Or one, again, roughly 1 in 800 booster packs. And the reason why that is closer, and the reason why they're both roughly 1 in 800 to get your specific alt art, is because Astral Radiance again has 6 alt arts in total, whereas Brilliant Stars and Lost Origins have 4, meaning that it's actually easier to pull the alt arts in Astral Radiance, but because there's more of them. But overall, the specific card that you're going to get, you've got a similar likelihood to getting that specific card in Lost Origins or in Brilliant Stars. So really, again, I kind of alluded to, you know, what does this mean? Where do we see these tangible impacts and these tangible effects? And what I wanted to quickly focus on from there was the actual prices of the cards throughout the time. So here I have 3 distributions for this is of course for Astral Radiance, and it's for the Dialga altar, Machamp altar, and the Sneasel altar. As of this moment in time, the most expensive altar from Astral Radiance by far is the Machamp. And if you look back at the numbers here, you can see that it's not the hardest to pull, it's the second hardest to pull according to these numbers. The Sneasler is apparently, you know, almost twice as difficult to pull. But because initially, if you look at the beginning of the curve, if you look at the first peak on these price distributions, you can see that the Sneasler just starts off at a lower price. It starts off around 60, whereas the Machamp and the Dialga are around about 130. So the analysis really helps you out here to understand why the price for the Machamp is so much significantly higher than the Sneasler and the Dialga. We can say from this that the demand for the Sneasler, and it's expected, it might be an obvious thing to say, but you know, just to put some kind of numerical evidence there in front of you, the demand for the Sneasler to begin with is clearly lower, which is why it came out at a lower price, and it kind of fell. It's kind of a natural kind of negative growth that you'd expect from something. Not necessarily applicable to cards, for example, but you know, when you look at any kind of card releases, they start off higher, then continue to drop, and then of course plateau at a certain point. So we can see that with the Sneasler, there was just less demand to begin with, so it came at a lower price. With the Dialga and the Machamp, there seemed to be a similar amount of demand just because the prices were similar to begin with, but you can see with the Dialga, again, the fall was drastic compared to the Machamp. And again, the numbers aren't that much different. It's like 50% more difficult to pull the Machamp here according to these statistics, but I don't know if we had a greater number of statistics, we could make a better argument here. But maybe that's why the Dialga price falls significantly to like 40% of its initial price, whereas the Machamp falls 20%, 25%, and then kind of stabilizes quite quickly. Is it because that Machamp is just harder to pull and it's just there's fewer on the market, and that's why it's managed to maintain the price? Because as someone who is a Dialga fan and who was interested in getting the Dialga, grading it, and just keeping it in my collection, I noticed quite quickly that the market was flooded in with these cards, even though you know, there was anticipation, great anticipation for both the Dialga and the Machamp. So it's interesting to see that price fluctuation from the Dialga and the Machamp from the beginning, obviously from the same set, but it looks like the Machamp was harder to pull, meaning that it kind of plateaued quite quickly relative to the Dialga, which dropped first significantly, then plateaued. Another example is to look at Brilliant Stars, which is of course why I chose to look at these two sets. Again, I've tried to include as much of the data as I could. So here there was more than there was not even 6 months of data, but I just wanted to include as much as I could. Here I think the set was released like 1 week earlier, so you would expect a little bit of more of the kind of beginning peak, but you can see roughly that the distributions are similar. So obviously they peak at the beginning, and then you have a pretty steady fall before the card starts to plateau 3 or 4 months into its kind of life cycle. One thing I would say is that the kind of gradients for the alt art cards, if we look again back at the pull rates, they seem to be significantly easier to pull relative to the Astral Radiance cards, and although we don't see the same drop that we see with the Dialga, it does seem like it's a little bit more of a perhaps I am missing something in terms of why it drops so suddenly. Maybe that is just another it is possible that that's just a oh god, what's it called, an outlier, an anomaly at the beginning. Certainly possible, because it does drop quite quickly to $70. But we don't really see the same percentage drop with the Dialga. Perhaps if you go straight to the $70 point and start from there, it's going to look similar to what we see with the Arceus and the Charizard card. Again, the Charizard card, because it's a Charizard, the alt art does come back, and it seems to bounce back quite quickly compared to the Arceus, which seems to be continuing to drop. So at this point in time, it's around about $38, whereas the Charizard started over $200. It managed to hit around about $160 and then has rebounded to $180. You expect that from Charizard card. It's always the kind of card you want to go to if you're interested in investing in a card or investing in a specific set. If we look at the Rainbow Rare Charizard, we can see that it is somewhat easier to pull than the other cards, and I think just the fact that the Rainbow Rares are easier to pull in Brilliant Stars, there are only as I mentioned, there are only 8 Rainbow Rares in Brilliant Stars at the same time, just means that I would say the real life, or not the real life, sorry, but a more accurate statistic for the Rainbow Rares, the Rainbow Rare Charizard and Arceus from Brilliant Stars, I would expect those numbers to actually be higher, and so I would expect them to be easier to pull if we had more data there, which is why it drops significantly more and faster than the alt arts, for example, particularly the alt art Charizard. There's a lot of things that I'm not considering here, and I'm not maybe looking into too much detail in terms of data we don't have, like production, how many cards, boxes, whatever were produced. But I'm just trying to give a broad idea of what we've seen, and trying to put some ideas as to explain why, for example, that $170 or that Charizard that started at $170, the Rainbow Rare has dropped so significantly, whereas the alt art dropped and then rebounded a lot faster. And I guess the 2 points I would say are the fact that the Rainbow Rare should be easier to pull, and then the alt art obviously is an alt art, so there's just more demand from it. That's why it starts off higher, and that's why it rebounds faster too. So where does this take us with Lost Origins? So obviously it's all fun and games talking about the other sets, but what does this mean for Lost Origins? So in terms of the important cards, again, we're going to look at the Giratina and the Aerodactyl. Demand high, super anticipated set, and that's why the prices have come out as high as they have done. I'd say the numbers are closer to Astral Radiance. So are we going to expect something similar with the Machamp here, or are we expecting something similar to the Arceus perhaps, or the Charizard V from Brilliant Stars? And it looks like, and I would anticipate that they're going to follow a similar trajectory to the Machamp, so I'm expecting them to plateau reasonably quickly and then maintain that price for a while. It's also possible that the data here, just because it's not been long enough, we're expecting another drop in this Machamp, because we're talking about 3 months almost 4 months of data versus 6 months here. So that point where the card, this Machamp, seems to plateau, in 2 months time that might have dropped even further, maybe when the next set gets released, and then obviously in anticipation of that, people drop the price of the card. So overall, what I'm saying is that I expect the prices of Giratina and the Aerodactyl and Pikachu, I'd say, it's a little bit different just because it's not a main card set. An itch. Because it's not a main card set, I'd expect the price to drop faster on that. I think it's already dropping significantly quickly. The Giratina and Aerodactyl doing the exact same thing, but I also expect them perhaps then to plateau quite quickly because they're not going to be so easy to pull. But we'll wait and see what happens, and whether that's whether it is going to kind of follow the ideal kind of Machamp pricing, because I think something like this, where the price plateaus reasonably quickly and stays at that price for a while, is a lot healthier than something like the Charizard Rainbow V-Star. I think just the sheer number of cards of that ilk that were pulled has led to a distribution of that shape. So I hope this was interesting and worthwhile, worth your time. I just thought it was really interesting looking at the numbers myself, and I thought it'd be a good idea to maybe make a video and see if anyone else could benefit from listening to it. So just like to say, if you're still listening, thanks first of all, and if you could leave a like, happy to discuss in comments and so on and so forth. Subscribe as well if you like this kind of video, and hopefully you'll see more of me soon.